All right, guys, welcome. We're back with another recap chat. Married at First Sight. I think I'll call this one Michelle and Pastor Cal Crack the Case. First, it starts off with MM and Ikechi meeting up for ice cream. They're supposed to be stepping back, having a date night. He says he just wants her to show up and just be and not ask all the questions. So she's doing her best. She's fighting the urge. The date seems kind of awkward, and he's the one asking questions. What brings you joy? And she kind of generically gives off some things, some issues that they're having, like with communication, care. This brings her joy. Then he says, what brings him joy is he's gonna go see his family at this I believe it's his homecoming. I think it's old college homecoming. So he's gonna be leaving to do that. But he's gonna enjoy time with his niece, his nephew, his family, and of course his friends, I assume, right? So he's going out of town. He's like, I'll text you or whatnot. And she was like, well, are you gonna see your mom? And he's like, she's like, I'd love to see your mom. And he doesn't respond to that because I know a fight would ensue. But he's like, I'll text you, in the morning and in the evenings, and I'll kind of keep in touch with you by text, right? So she's like, okay. They're playing blackjack. Well, he said, do you know how to play blackjack or 21? She's like, kinda. So he pulls out the cards and they're starting to play. And she notices his ring is off and was asking why is his ring not there. He's like, well, I probably washed the dishes and left it. So the date it didn't go too well to me. It didn't go bad. At least no one popped off on each other. But she kind of had this sick look on her face the whole time. She ends up going home and just not feeling peace at the place they're supposed to be sharing. He's not even there anyway. And they're supposed to be now on dating terms, stepping back, dating, and not at marriage status anymore. So we don't see much from MM and Ike because there's not much going on. Dr. Pia is actually doing her rounds with all the couples, and MM and Ike seem to be left out, and that's because he's still out of town, won't be back till Sunday, as she reports to Dr. Pia over the phone. And she kind of lets her know what's going on with the date. She's ended up going back home. She doesn't feel comfortable being in their shared space. And, he said he would text her during his trip, but hasn't communicated with her at all. And Dr. P is like, well, have you checked in on him just to see if he arrived okay? She's like, no, I'm trying to step back because, he doesn't even want me to really check in on him. And I don't really feel like hearing the aftermath of that. And she's supposed to be technically stepping back anyway and letting him put in some effort. So I think she's making the right moves in this situation. And she basically saying he abandoned the marriage. So Dr. Pia says, I guess we'll address things when he returns. It's not really right what he's doing. I think she's expecting some reaction out of M over the phone, but it's not much of one. And I feel like she's really just at the point where she's really probably seeing that this is over and this is the end. And she did say the marriage was abandoned. So it is what it is. Honestly, I think she's better off. The sooner the better. Step away from the situation. Because I assume, it's in. I can see I've been in relationships where I felt like I was not being treated properly, kind of been ghosted in a way, kind of half playing games. And you're actually married to this person and you had high hopes. So, that level of care I haven't been in. I have been in situations where I thought I was going to get married and it didn't work out. But to be in this whole experiment, it's, really disheartening that she put so much into it and this is how he leaves things. But I'm curious to see, all the backstory, everything that we didn't see, everything that maybe MM may have done that we didn't see, and really what is Akechi's whole intentions behind this marriage thing, because I feel like he really gave up soon and quickly. Is something huge really had to trigger this? I don't know what it was. I partially do feel like it was when he saw her place and saw how she was living, and he did feel like he was less than at that point. But I don't know if she ever really confirmed that with her actions and her words, or if that's just something he felt on his own. So just some things to think about as we wait for the next episode, which things are really going to start heating up according to what I'm seeing on the previews, guys. It's starting to heat up even more. This was a pretty good episode as well. So what comes up at this point are the girls go out and the guys go out. The guys go out for a boxing night to blow off some steam. Of course, Akechi is nowhere to be seen, but he is out of town, to be fair. I don't think the rest of the cast knows. But they said, I think Thomas said if he was there, he really probably wouldn't have been offering much anyway of chatting and kind of talking about the experience. So either way. So we cut to Thomas and Camille. They're getting ready for bed in the evening, and they're like, hey, what are your problem spots? Let's rub them out. So he takes out the massage gun, and she says, he's a gentleman. And I think somewhere on their legs, glutes, or whatever they were saying. I don't remember the exact spots. But he was a gentleman as he administers this massage with a massage gun. And she goes wild and does the opposite. I think they were just having fun, though. She gets on top of him and she puts the gun on high, so he's like freaked out by this painful, crazy massage. She says she's punishing him with the massager. I don't know what's going on with them, but at least they're doing something that's marital. But they seem like they were having fun at that time. Now they do have an assignment from Dr. Pia. And the assignment is bondage, guys. All right. So Dr. Pia kind of talks to them about their love life, and I'm trying to find my notes, but I think that I can pretty much recall that basically Camille was more of the initiator, and she feels like she's been more dominant because she's growing up. She had to kind of step up as a child when her parents got divorced and handle everything and make sure everyone was good. So that kind of translates into the bedroom probably at this time, because Thomas is not really pushing it. And I understand when a man does that, especially in some type of experience like this, they may be seen as too much of an aggressor. So I feel like Thomas is playing the right moves, and I feel like that's already kind of in his nature anyway, not to be too forceful. And they were asking, kind of getting invasive in their questions and talking, and he said he's a giver, and they were talking about a certain act when it comes to the bedroom, and he says he's the giver, but hopefully one day Camille will return that, because Dr. Pia asked what would he like, so this is what he said. And she said she's open to it, but probably somewhere down the line, just not at this time. So they basically act like they're open to anything, and even Camille's like, nothing's really off limits. And I'm like, okay, this is a little bit dangerous ground here. Even though I could just verbally say that to the experts, and if someone that has a normal sex life, maybe they'll say that, but like, what if he pulls out something that you just never seen before that you couldn't believe? Or what if she does the same? Like, I'm just saying, that's like a hot button question maybe, and I'm trying to remember the phrase I'm thinking about for that type of question. It's a loaded question. So I would kind of be careful with saying, hey, I'm open to anything, because the options are endless in this world. But anyway, their assignment is literally bondage, and Dr. Pia sends them a basket so they can complete this assignment. So she starts off with Thomas. To me, it was kind of fun and funny. It wasn't like too invasive, but it's a little much for TV. But honestly, they didn't give me a whole lot to be like, oh, this is too much and we shouldn't be watching this type of thing. But it was, to me, a little bit of a comedy here. So Thomas was the first to get bound. She put a gag in his mouth. She whipped him and he was screaming. And it wasn't like that type of scream. It was like actually a ouch type of scream. It was funny. Then she brought out the massage gun and turned it on high again to torture him. It was funny. And then when it was her turn, though, he was very gentle on her. They were kissing and he was using candle wax and it was kind of romantic. So I think that they probably had a good night. That's Thomas and Camille. All right, now we're going to Michelle and David. Pastor Cal actually meets with Michelle and David and not Dr. Pia because they're having issues here. Dr. Pia is making the rounds with everyone else, but in this situation, not the case. Pastor Cal gives her a hug, tells her she looks incredible, and I'm just used to Pastor Cal doing that. He's very complimentary to the ladies, and I think that's nice. I don't know if anybody feels put off by that, but I don't feel like it was anything creepy. But I just noticed, like, you look incredible, and I haven't heard anybody really say that to anyone in this show, and it's Married at First Sight. Really haven't heard it. But, there are complications in the show with some of the couples anyway. But basically all the couples except Thomas and Camille are doing okay. So she tells Pastor Cal the story of the text. The text that is, he says he's talking about food is so fine, he'd like to eat it up, but it doesn't make sense. He says he sent it to his cousin and he didn't mean to send it to Michelle. And all of this scenario, but Pastor Cal says that sounds weird. She says, yeah, it's a lie, just straight up. And Michelle says she's triggered by infidelity because it happened with their parents. And so here David walks in looking funny. She hasn't talked to him since the whole incident the other night when they were arguing about that text. So, he asked David about the scenario, and actually he just asks David, how is he? And he just starts right up with the text right away. So to me, that shows your guilt. Nobody even said anything about the text, and that's the first thing that you talk about and you try to explain it away immediately. Whatever. His guilt is so high, and he doesn't know how to talk himself out of anything. He's a horrible liar. I'm not sure how he maintains any relationships with lies involved, because I don't know who could believe them. Honestly, it's horrible. I've never heard a lie that bad in all of time. But Pastor Cal, he's like, well, who talks to their food like that? And I'm like, right, seriously? And it really was about the food? Then David does the David chuckle, which is the first time I think he may have done it before, but this chuckle was kind of long and leaning, and I'm like, oh, that just implicates more guilt, sir. You're like the Cheshire Cat. You have a secret that you're hiding. So he said, Pastor Cal's like, okay, so beyond this, why are you texting and spending time with other women? And Michelle's like, she feels like something's bigger is going on. He's not being honest about something is hidden. And even Pastor Cal says, I feel like you're hiding something. So we know that's why I said Michelle is going to crack this case with the help of Pastor Cal. He admits that he has his doubts about her and the relationship and the way she's been treating him because of her rejection. He feels like she doesn't care anyway. I feel like he's just deflecting. He just doesn't want to tell the truth. So Pastor Cal reveals that, hey, Michelle has an issue with her, what happened with her parents, and infidelity is an issue for her. He's like, well, I didn't know that. And he's like, well, there's so much you haven't discussed, and you guys are kind of just coming up with your own assumptions of each other, and it's just like snowballing till you're just to the point where you just want to screw this whole marriage. If you want to unscrew it, you guys have to talk and have some real discussions. And they keep asking him, can you connect with your cousin Denise? He's like, no, I don't want to bring her into our marriage. I don't want to bring her into this. But Pastor Cal's like, well, why don't you do it, Michelle? Why don't you call him? So he's not left off the hook. It's kind of funny because I think he thought he was going to get off the hook. But Pastor Cal was like, hey, Michelle, you're not a stranger to asking hard questions. Why don't you take this into your hands and figure out what's going on? And I think that Pastor Cal kind of put it into her hands because he can't do it, of course, being one of the moderators of the show. She has to be the one to kind of move the needle and see what's going on. So he kind of put that in her hands, and I think together that helped them crack this case. And we'll talk more about the case being cracked as we continue. So Pastor Cal, after they left, Pastor Cal was like, I didn't know what else to say. What else could I say? Like, even Pastor Cal was stumped and dumbfounded and unsure of how to handle the situation. He's like, well, Michelle, you're going to have to take it from here. And so they go outside and they talk a little bit, and then she wants to know what's up. He's like, so now you care and all this? And so now he's making a big deal about her attitude and how she's been this whole time. It's like, people, why can't we just really straight up talk about this now? It's really difficult to talk to Michelle, be honest with you. It's hard to get by her wall that she has up. But she wants to know, well, why can't you call your cousin and get these receipts from me right now? Because he's a liar, and it was like pulling teeth to get anything from him. And he's like, you know what? I really just have to go to work anyway. So then she's like, okay, fine, goodbye. Messy, right? So she concludes to say, I think I just met the real David today for the first time, asking, is he an F-boy? So she will talk to Denise. Talk to Denise, and she says basically she feels like she will cover for him anyway, because that's his cousin. Okay, so now Carla, Juan, and Dr. Pia, they get their little visit with Dr. Pia, and Carla says, he met their parents finally. That was an off-camera situation because her family did not sign up for this show, so they didn't want to appear. But they were like, Dr. P was like, how was it meeting the family? And he was just talking about all the food and the 2 pounds of food they brought home. And then Dr. P is okay, now let's really get back to the situation with you guys, relationship, the intimacy, and all of that stuff. So it seems like it's all about the food this episode. Last time too, especially when it comes to Mr. David flirting with his food. But Dr. Pia calls out Carla for having a picture of her being all over one of her friends or something on socials. Now, I don't know if this was something old, an old picture, but it's still kind of messy. She's like, well, how do you feel about Carla having this on her socials and all that stuff? You guys both have kind of a wild spirit with you, like lovey-dovey, physically open, I'll say, spirit. But how's that going with you guys being together? Do you guys have that connection yet? Say, no, we're still working on it, which I keep hearing, right? So she gives them an assignment called Tantra Yoga. And the Tantra Yoga was hilarious, okay? It was kind of fun the day, I think it was the morning of, where they were kind of like, he was looking up on his phone and was like, okay, these are the different poses we're going to do. So they tried some of the cute little poses that were kind of fun, look like partner stunts or whatever. But before that, she says, she puts milk in her coffee, and she's like, uh-oh, that's going to do something to your stomach. And she's like, well, I don't do anything while I'm in this apartment with you. So I'm like, wow, this is weird. He's like, oh, she goes all the way to the gym to go. She's going to tell her kids one day I had to go all the way to the gym to go use it so she wouldn't use it in the apartment with her man or her husband. Her husband, that is her episode reality show husband. So that was a kind of funny thing they had and funny thing they did during their little morning time together. And they were just having fun trying those different little poses. I thought it was kind of cute, and they were bonding a bit, but still feels like a friendly bond. But I felt a little marital little argument, cute little argument there as well. But it is what it is as we continue with these guys. They take a brief moment to go to Michelle and David's place, and looks like Michelle is MIA. She's gone since they had their argument. He hopes that she believes him and they can move forward beyond this incident. Well, I don't know if she moved out. I think she did go back to her place momentarily, but I don't know if she completely moved out. All right, now we go to Madison and Alan. They kind of had a big issue going on. But first, Dr. Pia meets them. And she meets Luffy as well. Luffy is fun and feisty. He's so cute. He actually howls when Dr. Pia comes. And I thought it was like, wow, he really loves Dr. Pia. They talk about the last assignment she gave them where they kind of had to do it was like a dating twister where they had to ask each other questions and then they have to do like the twister and get on each of the different little colored dots or whatever. And they said that was kind of fun. Thanks for the last assignment. It went pretty good, and it opened things up a bit. But she said, well, how was your trust and intimacy and all of that? And she was basically talking about the issue with him drinking, and that was like the main issue that they had. And I guess it may be a reoccurring issue. And then it was another game she had them play called Just the Tip. And they were both kind of blushing at the name of that game, but they said they were both open to this game, and they were kind of talking about intimacy, relationships with what each other. It'll open up the doors to what each other likes and stuff. And it's like, well, she was like, Alan's being pretty quiet over there. He might rock your world. We'll see what's gonna happen. Is Alan a world rocker? I don't know if we're gonna find out in this episode. So it looks like Madison and Alan kind of return home. They define their basket and their assignment. And it says, they're asking each other questions. And he says he's not into dirty talk. He said there's other ways to be romantic without using the language. Talk about foreplay. And she talks about the position that she prefers. I was a little bit bored. I was like, this should be a little bit more exciting, but I assume that that's just how they feel between each other, though there's a lack of chemistry for whatever reason. And I used to feel a little more as far as Alan was hopeful, but at this point, I don't know what Alan is feeling, because he started just coming up saying these things about, he realizes she's unemotional when it comes to things in the bedroom and intimacy. At first, he thought she was a different type of way when he first met her, and he used the words like, I don't know if this is the right word, I don't think it's the right word, but I thought you were more transactional when it came to the bedroom. So that got her kind of upset, and she something like thought she was kind of like a club's girl, and he kind of made the wrong assumptions about her, and it completely killed the mood. She was not looking like she was up for anything at this point. And he, starts to try to apologize because he knows he messed up. And at this point, he goes to take the dog out, and Madison is not really happy after he leaves. I think the producers started asking her questions about how she feels. She's like, no, that really wasn't cool. His assumptions that he made about me, and I've lived my life where people make these assumptions as the way I look, like that type of girl that, this is what I do to get to the top or whatever, but I work hard, I'm about my stuff, and I'm not that type of woman that people they think that I am. So That's how she's perceived all of her life, and she's really frustrated that Alan will be one of those people just to think the same. So at this point, he's in the doghouse. I think she went to go make a call when he returned from walking the dog. I think he was trying to apologize again, but she went to go make a call. She's like, I guess she was trying to be okay with it. She wasn't happy with it, but she was trying to deal, and she just disappeared into the night and didn't come back. She was saying, basically he called me a hooker and all of this, and it's only about 2 weeks left in this experience, and I don't really know. At this point, this is like a big setback for us because they already didn't have the intimacy going. So he finally meets up with her. I think it's maybe the next day, I'm not sure, and at the gym, and they start talking. And I was looking at Madison like, dude, Madison she's built, man. She looks like she can punch Alan down into the ground. Just her build alone, I'm like, okay, maybe she can use this as a backup, bodybuilding as a backup job if she wanted to. But she said she always had to prove herself beyond her looks. It's been an issue, and she was trying to explain to Alan, and he's like, well, wait a minute, you judge me, and I've been taking all your judgments, and why, and I've been quiet about it. Why can't you take it in a certain way? And you're being more sensitive than me. And then she's like really upset at that point. Like, now why are you turning this on me? You just need to stop, right? And again, like I said, Madison is ripped. That's what I really realized, how ripped she was. And I don't know if I want to pick a fight with her at this time. I see Alan's body's coming together a little bit better. For something about him in this episode, for me, he looked more attractive. I don't know. I think he maybe lost a little weight, tightened his body up a little bit. But Madison's rippedness basically, what is that word? Eclipsed all of the work he's done anyway. But he was like, it's time to be real. I've been trying to basically appease you and all of this, and to get you to the point where you'll accept me. And so basically they're back at the house because she really got so upset. She walked out of the gym before he could finish talking. She was like, you know what, I'll be back. And she wasn't back. So he went back up to the house. I assume that gym is the same one that's in their building. And then he started to say, I really care about you. I was worried about you. You didn't come back till like 3 a.m, and you said you was going to be back soon. And I was having dreams that you remarried someone else. And like, I guess he was having dreams he was going to lose her and all this. It's like, this showed me how much I really care about you and all of that. And she's like, and I guess they were saying, we need to be more communicative of how we feel about situations to each other. And the fact that we care so much that's making us upset means that at least we care about each other to the point that maybe we can have something here, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Madison was not happy about the scenario, and she's like, basically, it's not going to be healed overnight. She understands he was not trying to have ill intent against her, but she wasn't happy with what he said, his delivery, and the wording that he chose. And that was a bad move, Alan. This is the first time I really saw him make a bad move, besides the getting drunk scenario, which I don't know how drunk he was, but drinking and driving was a scenario everybody's saying that's not cool. And I totally agree, but I don't drink. Some people think you can just do a little and you'll be fine, and they know how to handle there. But some people don't know how much is too much. So I don't know which guy Alan is in that scenario, but I trust Madison on that point and say, I guess you just should not even give it a try. But I don't drink anyway. So finally, I think they kind of made a breakthrough, and maybe Alan did, for standing up for himself, because he's like, well, you thought I was a pushover, you judged me for all of these things, and at this time I'm saying something about you and you can't take it or whatever. But it's different, especially when you're kind of saying somebody else would do things in the bedroom just for transactional purposes. I mean, that was what he was insinuating. That's a lot. So that's not going to be okay, right? But they're still trying to work through that. I don't know if he thought he was going to get lucky that same night he married her. And if she was that type of woman, would he have the respect for her that he has today? Good question. Anyway, let's end it with Juan and Carla. They're getting ready for the tantra person to come and show them how to do their in-home yoga exercises to get them closer together. And Carla has all of these candles lit, and Juan just notices one of the little plants decorations is on fire next to the candle. So they put that fire out, which was good. I guess that's the only fire burning at their place, because they don't have any fire for each other. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe it'll come in due time. But the tantra lady, she's on her way. She's going to bring the fire. Come on, we're ready. So this lady comes in, and is she actually in lingerie? She looks like somebody's grandma. No hate for grandmas, and I'm not a youngster myself, but she just doesn't look like the tantra yoga lady that you would imagine. She's a little bit full figured, and she's wearing this lingerie. And at the after party, Juan even questioned, was she wearing underwear? So this lady was participating in all of the exercises with them. And even Juan said, at the after party, she wanted to do more than what we saw on the screen. So it was mostly tame. There was just breathing and looking at each other. And then she had some roses that they were rubbing on Juan. And literally she got into the act. And I'm like, why is she participating? Is this a threesome tantra? She was like so into it. And she was freaking me out, guys. I think she should have stepped back if she's going to be in this thing. But it was like, she was really gung-ho to participate in this scenario, as far as Juan was stating. And she wanted to do more. But she left and she said, you guys can keep practicing all night, will you? I was like, okay. She's like, I'm up for it. Carlos like, I'm up, let's practice. So he was like, well, now that we got the roses on me, and we're rubbing the roses on me, now it's your turn. I'm going to do that with you. So there was like a weird humming sound they were making when the lady was still there. She was like, while they were rubbing the roses on Juan, she's like, say home. And it was like really funny, right? Juan did the same thing while he was rubbing the rose on Carla. It was not romantic. It was funny. They were goofing around. The weird meditation noises, all of that. So at least he returned the favor, but it was all a comedy act at the end of the night. That yoga lady was, she was something else. She made the night. I'll have to say she made the night for me. Definitely not what I would have expected at all. And that is it, guys. That is the end of that episode. We got to see some from the after party. I didn't watch all of it, but why does everybody look better in the after party? Except I think Juan may have looked a little older. I think he needs his mustache, but he doesn't look bad. Just looks a little older. I know some time has passed, but Madison was there and her suspected boo, David, and they both look better, thinner. Not to say thin makes you look better, but they looked more fit, I'll say. And Keisha called David out on the Texas scenario situation, and he kind of basically admitted that what he did was not right. He didn't specifically say what he did, but we basically knew that the case was solved when, how could I forget? The case was solved when Michelle actually called the niece his cousin, and that is when she told Michelle that she went along with what he asked her to do, but she didn't know all the details of what was going on. and the text was not about food, and that was the truth. So Michelle did crack the case, finally with the help and the pushing of Pastor Cal. So they Scooby-Dooed it. And, David in the after party solidified that, yes, in actuality, his cousin was telling the truth. He apologizes to her that he put her in that, and that lies were told, and he should have been more of a stand-up guy in the scenario. Keisha did call him out, and I respect the way that she did it. She knows how to do this show. She does it well. She doesn't take things too far, but she'll call you out. She doesn't totally throw them under the bus because they won't want to return to the show, but she does what she does. And the mystery has been solved. Partially. And we all suspect that Madison may be that girl. So what are your thoughts, comments, questions? Email me, let me know at cbiztv@yahoo.com. That's cbiztv@yahoo.com. We'll talk more Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance, other trending topics, faith, love, and trends right here on CBiz Media. All the best, and God bless.